that you're dropping out. So, which one of you on stage tonight should be voted off the island? Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds starting now. Of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
With all due respect, I mean, we're here, like, we're happy to debate, but I think that's disrespectful to my fellow competitors.
Nobody wants to participate.
Let's do some questions. Let's talk about the future of the country.
And welcome to News from the Pew, ladies and gentlemen, where we take news from around the interwebs and make it slightly less frightening. I am your host, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic, joined by two of my amazing members of the panel today. First one coming to us from Georgia, Mr. John Narrington. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, sir. And Mr. Steve Cunningham of Sensus Fidelium. And we have some stuff to talk about.
Did we vote? Did we vote Enoch off the island?
No, he chose. He voluntarily left. He voluntarily left the island for better pastures and better things. So that's what I heard. That was the rumor there. But yes, as you can see, folks, one more hallmark of a declining democracy or republic happened last night in the form of the Republican debate. So as you can see, that was kind of a mess. Now take a look at a little bit more.
It gets messier.
Yeah,
it gets much worse. That, but he's not. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action.
Last debate, he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
No, you said bought and paid for.
If I may finish.
You can't be on both sides.
People in Washington are shutting down the American dream with their reckless behavior. They borrowed, they printed, they spent, and now you're paying more for everything. They are the reason for that. They have shut down our national sovereignty by allowing our border to be wide open. So please spare me the crocodile tears for these people. They need to change what's going on. And where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now. I can tell you this, as governor of Florida, we cut taxes, we ran surpluses, we've paid down over 25% of our state debt, and I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
We'll go for a little bit on what you heard so far.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. First of all, I'm pretty sure Chris Christie worked 2 or 3 weeks on that Donald Duck line. He was very proud of himself when he actually said it. Ron DeSantis is just Ron DeSantis. He's floundering, and everybody else is just jockeying for a primetime spot on Fox News's primetime lineup. That's my opinion. John, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I can't say you're wrong. From what Steve just showed there, I confess that I have not seen anything else other than that.
We'll show more. I just didn't want to put everyone at suicide watch for the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, goodness gracious. I don't know. It's at least they declined to engage in the goofy game that whoever that isn't that a former Fox girl up there. I mean, I've fallen so out of that girl right there.
Dana.
Oh my word. I mean, what, hopefully it wasn't her idea. I mean, I thought she was a decent, person on Fox, but I don't know. It's just all so sad. And, DeSantis at least made a good point there that, or seemed to be making a good point. If I understood him correctly, I was trying to get what he was saying, but sometimes it can be a little difficult. that I mean, yeah, there are certain boring parts to the job in engaging in politics, and I mean, can you imagine like the ancient, well, I shouldn't say ancient, but the kind of the somewhat old timey filibusters and the all night drag out fights. I mean, remember the movie with what's his name, who stood up there basically for a day, made a movie about it. I think it was based on the true story. The guy from It's a Wonderful Life. But you guys probably know what I'm talking about. But just that desire.
Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
Yes, there you go. There you go. You just don't see that kind of dedication to, as Rick noted, the Republic anymore. And I mean, granted, I don't know if I could work up the even if I had the guarantee you will be made president if you go through all the rigmarole that it takes to be elected. I mean, with a family, with my sanity intact, would I engage? I don't think I would. So I don't know what goes through these people's minds. I mean, I heard one time Vivek Ramaswamy's explanation of why he decided to run despite being uber wealthy and, living the high life at a pretty young age, compared to the others up there at least. But I kind of asked myself that about him, about DeSantis. Like, why are you doing this? What could possibly be changed in a way that's truly going to benefit? Let's just even say, to kind of go with the current rhetoric, the majority, over half of the people in the United States of America, if you're elected. I mean, what are you morally certain to be able to accomplish once you get there? I don't know. They give a few examples there of things they promised they would do once they're elected, but are they going to be able to accomplish it? Are they really going to go through with it? I mean, in that regard, that's kind of why I hate to say it, because he's so bad on abortion. There's no way, I don't think, just given what I know about it now, that we could morally be allowed to vote for such a person, given the abortion stance. But like RFK Jr. seems to be the most sensible one in the whole mess, that's actually running for president. So I don't know. I hear some good stuff from Ramaswamy, but otherwise it's just so depressing. It's hard to know what to say there. I went on for a few minutes. And I don't know if I answered any question, but it's just depressing.
No, you did. Yeah, it is. It is depressive. That's what we're looking for, right, Steve?
Oh, it was a storm. It was from what I saw from other ones it was just bad. They're yelling at each other most of the time, and that's what the debates are. But I mean, this is running for, hey, who wants to be number 2? Woo! Right. I mean, Rick. I mean, he's not 100% in politics, but he has his foot in it. And when we were texting, he didn't even know it was on yesterday. The only reason I knew it was on is because I was walking by one of the TVs at the gym, and it said, "Hey, debates next Wednesday." I go, "Holy cow, that's okay." They're having another one already. It's debate season already. I was like, "Man, that was quick. It flew up on us. It was so bad the first time you couldn't wait for the second." Yeah, but like Jonathan was saying at the promises, everyone goes with the promise. That's why the joke is we get an elected king. None of those guys can do whatever they say they can do. They don't have the power to do things like. There's one today that said you don't have the power to do this. I just put a retweet on something like that. I think Biden might have said something. I go, he has zero authority to do this. There's even I even say the RFK thing when his stance on abortion. If we had the presidency that it's in the Constitution, that right there shouldn't make any sway one or the other, because the executive does not write laws. So there's zero influence on if a guy comes in, if we're going through the paperwork, the Constitution as it is, and we follow that thing as it says, which we've probably never done ever. And a guy comes in and says, "Hey, I believe in there's green people on the moon and things like there's lizard people underneath Denver International Airport." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, it's nuts." But he says stuff like, "I will follow this document to the T. I do not, whatever his job details are, that should be it." You know what I mean? I mean, that's if the guy believes in asteroids playing baseball and Martians eating fried chicken inside of human, but he follows the Constitution to a T, his personal opinions shouldn't, in my thinking, I'm going, they shouldn't matter. But we make it matter because we want that executive, that elected king, to do what he's promises to do. I mean, Trump's out there with the funny thing with the Donald Duck thing, which, as Rick said, he was working on it for a couple weeks. He did, and notice it fell flat. It was one of those. He's waiting for a laugh, and he didn't get much of it. Because from what I understand, I saw. I'll get
Pence tried it. Pence tried it too,
Pence
and
tried it.
He got absolutely flattened on that.
From what I heard after the thing is people were leaving after the first hour, like yawning, leaving, and there's nothing to do. Again, the number one guy is on another at the same time talking to other people in another city, probably getting more ratings, and he's 50 points above all y'all. So yeah, DeSantis had a point on he needs to back up his $1 trillion spending, and he should be able to be held accountable for that. But guess what? His base, as Trump, I think, said, he could go down on 5th and Main and shoot somebody and still get elected. He literally can't. Look at Jack and those guys online. They are drooling over Trumpzilla right now. They love it. He can do no wrong. Like I said last week, he could have brought down the World Trade Centers and a plane, anything, and they'd be fine with it and vote him in. It's Trump. We love the guy. MAGA, baby. He had MAGA on the side of the thing. They do not care. He could do whatever he wants and win. So the debates are really worthless. I don't know what the ratings are, but if no one watched it, you didn't miss anything. Because again, you're looking at 7 people who aren't going to be there come the nomination. Sure, we'll have the North Dakota governor on, and maybe I think in a second. He does a great job with explanation of EVs, but he's solid on it. He has probably negative chance of winning. He has zero. I think he had 2% going into the debate. He's down to 1. So anyway, we want some more.
Oh, before we do,
the crime in these cities.
Get John. John wants to get back in.
Well, I was going to say, as I heard Steve talking, something hit me. Tell me what you think, guys. Talking about just how egregious Trump could be with anything and yet still have that overwhelming majority. I don't know how it's possible. I'm not on the same planet as those people. I don't think, even more so than like the crazy Democrats. At least they're, I think, committed to something that's a little bit more logically consistent once you get inside that bubble. I think. But when Steve was talking, something hit me. It's the sort of attitude that you saw. I looked at it briefly. I hadn't been back on Twitter in a long time, but I looked when you guys sent me that stuff about the guy who showed what the Tates had actually been doing and what they admitted several times doing. Yeah. And the folks who, it was just who were calling him all manner of bad names for, why are you going after one of our own? Are you crazy like that? And then more or less something similar happening with the Russell Brand thing, more or less, maybe a few extra people kind of waking up to, maybe we just shouldn't jump on every single bandwagon, maybe a few. But in general, it's like, it's all part of the same phenomenon. And all right, so why am I saying that? Why am I worried about the phenomenon that seems to be the same with the Tates, the Russell Brands and the Trumps? Look, Tate seems horrible. Trump seems maybe just, somewhere middle of the road, pitiful, horrible, bad. Brand seems like, he's got some really big time eccentricities, but it doesn't seem like the worst guy imaginable, but still not the greatest, not really a role model for anybody. And just happens to be saying some decent stuff the last few years, finally hitting the nail on the head on a few different things. And he has a way of saying things. But the way people are acting right now about those particular figures, I'm sure there are others out there you could think of. Like, we are primed for taking on a dictator, an actual universally governing dictator with that sort of behavior. If you can't say after what Trump did to his own people on January 6th by leaving folks out to dry and by making no more bigger stink about things than he has already, and just about the way he was without really saying I'm sorry during the lockdowns. Like, if you can't get rid of him with, otherwise the people who do just as decent a job as president as he ever would have up there on the stage, probably half those guys could have. I even give like Tim Scott could probably do as decent a job as Trump did. He, Ramaswamy, DeSantis, because of what the office actually is and what he actually get accomplished, they do just as good a job. So why keep Trump? Why? It's this.
So it's a cult of personality, you're saying?
Yeah,
just like,
it's terrifying.
Dare I say, Obama?
Yep.
Yeah, except maybe even worse. Like, I think that I know more people in my little conservative big family circle who jumped off the Obama train then I know, who were sincerely on the Trump train, like I was at first in the 2015, 16, 17, and are now off. I mean,
it's okay when my team does it.
That's a horrifying reality right there.
I mean, we went through it about a month ago. Trump, who shut down the entire union. He bombed more than Obama did. Sure, he didn't start any more new wars. He bombed more than Obama did. Mm-hmm. The $7.8 trillion, we're up to $33 trillion in debt. Yeah, Brandon's doing worse. They all do worse. Mm-hmm. And if one says, "Hey, the election was rigged last time," and I put it in a Jack tweet. I go because he was calling out Tom Elliott for something because Tom was saying, "Hey, what about the 7.8 trillion?" I go, "Well, if that election was rigged, what was Trump's election? Was that the first honest election in history of elections?" No MAGA person's going to admit to that. You're going, "Yeah, well, that had to be rigged. They're all rigged except for Trump's." Oh, wait a minute. If that and the cat one down the street, your local one, are the only two real elections, something smells and it ain't the fish.
Yeah. Oh, this is just. I actually think that Dana Perino had a better point. You might as well treat it like a reality show at this point because it is a joke.
You're all losing.
They're all losing. None of them are going to get there. And the fact of the matter is, it's done for ratings. That's the only reason you're having these debates is to fill time. It's to fill places on primetime schedules.
In California, where you have 0% chance of winning that state.
Yeah. At the Ronald Reagan museum, which, Reagan, amnesty, no fault divorce, not exactly the greatest Republican president ever, but still needs to be revered and worshipped. You gotta actually, touch the toes if you want to move on. And the fact of the matter is, Trump could go on X in the middle of that thing and get more people to view what he's saying than all these guys screaming and yelling at each other. It's ridiculous. And
speaking of screaming, we'll play more and scream when you're on.
Yeah, let's hear.
Is one of the strongest signs of the decaying of America. We can't be successful as a country if people aren't even safe to live in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Just being in Southern California over the last couple of days, my wife and I have met 3 people who have been mugged on the street. And that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago. In Florida.
What's up, John?
Well, okay. That was the other thing. I mean, look, I lived in Florida for a year and a half, so it was better there than probably in most of the other states of the union. But it's something that he said earlier and what he is kind of just hinting at again, I think is the worst part of the modern Republican approach. And that's that it's always his fault. If you can say I'm pointing, it's always his fault or her fault or somebody else's fault or even it's China's fault. If it's not Russia's fault, it's China's fault, or it's somebody's fault. I mean,
they never blame them. Say, "Hey, I screwed up." You never hear those words.
No. Or everybody else.
I mean, I know you want to coddle the public, but look, he was talking about like the moral fabric and where we're going as a nation. The way you do that is by being able to take constructive criticism, not just from God, but also from your fellow man, and being able to constructively say, "Okay, you know what? You may not be exactly right, but yeah, okay, I screwed up in this, and this. I can take some benefit from your words against me there, and I can become better. I'm going to become better because of it." And instead, what even DeSantis is doing, I mean, I think I like him as a person more than most of the people there on the stage, and yet he's still coddling people, right? That is not how you get it. You get out of this current mess on the human side of things. I'm talking about from the divine reality and actually transforming the Declaration of Independence and even the Constitution to make us more in line with Catholic social teaching. But I'm talking about on the human level for the individual citizen by getting them to take responsibility for the wrongs they have committed. That's never been a big, hey, go and fight for freedom. But what about take responsibility for the wrongs that you have and might in the future commit? If we could just make that one change, I mean, that would change the United States of America forever and make us truly the greatest nation in the world. Just encouraging the common citizen to say, I'm going to take responsibility for what I could have done better, and I'm going to change for the better right now. Today,
you get 100% of the vote. If somebody came out, I screwed up, but I'm going to change this way, or Trump ever came out saying, "I'm sorry, I shut you all down. It will never happen again. This is why I screwed up." He might get 100%.
That was one of the reasons people actually supported Trump in 2016 is because he said stuff when they came after him about giving money to both parties. He said, "I'm in New York. I give money to both parties, so I get what I want." And people are like, "Okay, well, he's honest."
Yeah.
I mean, just even that little kernel of truth got him that mythological status that he's still riding today.
Yeah, and there's just one other thing that hit me too. Like, if you read the modern day self-help books that are uber famous, like Tony Robbins, the Dan Kennedys, the folks that I mean, really have done something impressive in the realm of mammon. Okay, like they have conquered the world of mammon, and our Lord talks about kind of the wisdom that's involved in that bubble. They say the same sorts of things. If you want to make something better, okay, you have to start getting concrete with your goals and concrete with more specific about the steps to get there. This whole what they are doing and what you, plural, like really what we'd say down here in the South, all y'all need to be doing, and what we should be, that's not concrete. No, what can I do? What can you just one of you right there, what can you do? Once you get more concrete with your orders, your prescriptions, that's like, it's kind of like with the physical realm as well. Like my body might handle something different than what Steve's body can, than what Rick's body can. So that I have a different sort of workout. It's something similar in the moral realm, because we're all starting from a somewhat different position. You get people to kind of take that sort of secular perspective of how to actually make some improvement and do that in the political realm. Okay, then you might start making some headway. But until we actually do what has been shown to work, they're just talking and
it also goes to regular Catholics online. How many Catholics do that? None of them take personal responsibility for anything. We always blame the other person. We blame Vatican II. We blame the Pope. We blame the bishops. It's kind of like that Frank Sheet quote. I mean, we're not going to the beatific vision of the bishops. We're not going, we don't take responsibility for our own actions. We get the leaders we deserve, but we act like we deserve everything without doing anything about it, becoming holier, better at prayer, working on ourselves, looking at the man in the mirror. It'll be fixed if we get the Pope we want or the bishop we want. Just like here, we'll be okay. Donald Trump's gonna do it. Yeah, we always blame other people when we do things that aren't the right way.
Yep. Hey, for me, Mateo challenge during October. I'm not gonna worry about what you're doing, what he's doing, what she's. I'm gonna not complain for October. I'm gonna do the Mateo challenge, and I'm gonna see if I can make a difference in my family's life, my children, my wife, and then hey, after that's what did they say back in the space age? Or when they were trying to get the man, once, or what was it?
Maybe one small step for man.
Yes, one giant leap for man. I mean, there's something to that. All right, I'm gonna make a small step here as a man doing Steve's Mateo challenge there, and we'll see if things get better.
Yeah, well, if they did that, then there would be no reason for politics.
And no more reason to tweet too.
Yeah, right. That's pretty much it in that regard. But yeah, if you want to listen to a little bit more.
We back the blue. We support the men and women of law enforcement. They are keeping us safe. We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. And yes, when I had 2 progressive prosecutors that weren't following the law in Florida, I removed them from their posts, and the people of Florida are safer as a result of it. As president, I will use the Justice Department to bring civil rights cases against all of those left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors. We're not going to let them get away with it anymore. We want to reverse this country's decline. We need to choose law and order over rioting and disorder.
That's why you should stay the governor of Florida.
Ron, let me finish.
All these guys have said
here's the
things,
fact.
and I appreciate a lot of the things they're saying.
Nikki
I'm
Haley,
the only one up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida. And that's what it's all about. You can always talk, but when it gets hot in there, when they're shooting arrows at you, are you going to be stand up for parents' rights, to keep the state free? Are you going to be able to do all those things? And in the state of Florida, because of our success, the Democratic Party lies in ruins. We have won the big fights. We have turned our state into a Republican state. People respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked about it.
And yesterday, he joined the picket lines where auto workers are demanding more wages and job security. Senator Scott, you recently reacted by praising Ronald Reagan for firing air traffic controllers in the 1980s, saying, "You strike, you're fired." Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector. However, we should look back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work weeks, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border working to close our southern border because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It is devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans in every single state.
Tim Scott makes me want to go to sleep.
6 million illegal crossings.
Maybe a nice
Joe
guy,
Biden has
but
taken office, and he eliminated Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done. The conversation about the things that are happening on this stage. We think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that because last debate he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. It's not nonsense.
So look, here's what I want to respond. These are good people who are tainted by a broken system, and it's not the fault of anybody who's involved.
Some of us are tainted.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
Can I vote somebody off?
If I may finish.
you know, if they keep this up, Vic's going to use his hair to erase all of them.
One of the challenges we should have
please focus on the issues that matter. We know we did business in China. Everybody knows that.
If I may address,
focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be focusing on.
I actually agree with Ron DeSantis.
Everybody speaking at the same time, no one can understand your message.
So if I may, I agree with Ron DeSantis on China. When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, right when it was years ago,
2023.
right when I started my next company, Strive, to compete against BlackRock, excuse me, to compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was
Oh yeah, I love the fact that we had.
and I want to be respectful.
I don't know. What's her? Spanish actress, Spanish soap opera stunt double, saying the questions out too. It's like, what the hell is this? Sorry for the language, folks. It's like
at least Vivek actually ran a business, and Tim and Nikki didn't.
Yep. Everybody else a career politician.
Well, I mean,
because I believe these were
last debate.
But I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
did
the
not
honor of Ronald Reagan's library, if I may. From one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another. From one admirer of Reagan to another, we cannot sit here and violate Reagan's 11th commandment.
I want to hear about that.
Let's have a policy debate.
What's going on?
Let us have a policy debate.
Let's have about their records.
I would leave too. If I was there, I would walk out of here.
Where's the leadership to stop, to take control? They lost control of this real fast.
Thank you very much. I will see that through. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that
And the context of that is what, ladies and gentlemen?
Incorporation.
Well, I was thinking about the reason why the wording is for the slaves that were born here. They weren't going to kick them off the land because of that. It's not for somebody just, a French diplomat to come in and have, give birth in Baltimore and come back and say, oh, that's an American citizen. No, that whole thing was for the slaves that were born here after that.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get into that one later.
Kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that. Well, if the kid of a Mexican diplomat doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met two young women early in this campaign.
Specifically on parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what the hypocrisy of this is? Even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry, it is not
all right, Steve, as the host, I'm calling this. We're done. We're done with the debate stuff. I mean, this is just, we got a couple other things we talk about, and I don't think our audience really cares about these people yelling at each other. I appreciate it. I mean, there was more Steve had, but I just can't. There's a reason I didn't watch it last night. I just couldn't do this stuff.
Or watch the highlights after, or lowlights if you want to call it.
Right. I mean, even the highlights, it's like, unless you put some sound effects and some catchy music under it, I'm going to fall asleep. Let's move to another useless thing in government, and that's the only good thing is that it might shut down, even though it's not going to shut down, but it might shut down. And if you're, in case you haven't heard about that, we have something. Do we have any video on the shutdown or anything?
Brandon.
All right, let's hear it.
To explain to you what's going on in Washington right now. Just about a week, we could be facing a government shutdown if Republicans in the House of Representatives don't do their job. And there's no reason for us to be in this position. Just a few months ago, after a long negotiation between myself and the Republican Speaker of the House, we came to an agreement on spending levels for the government that will fund essential domestic and national security priorities while still cutting the deficit over $1 trillion over the next decade. Now, there's a small group of extreme House Republicans who don't want to live up to that deal. So they're determined to shut down the government, shut it down now. And it makes no sense. I'm prepared to do my part.
How many takes do you think it took to get this?
Representatives refuse. They refuse to stand up to the extremists in their party.
You fell asleep in the
So now everyone in America could be forced to pay the price. Let me be clear. If the government shuts down, that means members of our U.S. military are going to continue to be on duty but not get paid. And frankly, that's adding insult to injury, since Republicans in the United States Senate have failed to stand up to one of their own senators, who for months has stood in the way of military promotions. Funding the government is one of the most basic responsibilities of the Congress. It's time for these Republicans in the House to start doing their job, doing the job America elected them to do. So let's.
Planning to vote on a series of amendments offered by the Republicans.
I wonder how much it costs
some of the funding bills. I hope
you have a button? I thought you have a button.
They get their act together
right there,
so
the
that
shutdown
we can
button.
avoid any kind of government shutdown.
I have a government one
this
like that.
is a intra-GOP fight, basically between the hard right and the even harder right.
Schiff, look how expensive that room is that you're sitting in.
Unfortunately,
right?
just an ungovernable
right? He
place
literally
under
should be sitting at a
McCarthy.
cube.
But I hope they get their act
Congress
together,
should
or at
be a
least well
cube
enough to keep the
farm.
lights
It should
on,
be a
because
cubicle
it's
farm
average
where
Americans,
everybody
ordinary
sits out in the
Americans.
open. None of
We're
these
gonna
idiots
suffer
get their own
if they shut
private
down the
little
government.
desks. The
There's no need for
opulence
this.
just making me so daggone angry. I'm sorry, I'm speaking over, but
in the old days, they all lived in one little apartment building.
yeah, that's how it should be.
They really did an
literally are
academic
treating
paper
themselves
on
to royalty at your
how many
expense.
shutdowns have there been in the last 30 years? How many threats of shutdowns have been used in the media? How many times has the talk of a shutdown actually ended up reducing spending? And, you know, it just goes on, but it's used all the time that this is such a danger. But if you looked for somebody who ever said, you know what, the shutdown, I lost my job, I lost this, and it was just horrible. Most of the time you read stories, well, I'm back to work and I got all my back pay.
Yeah.
You know,
that's right.
So the shutdown, it might be just politicians looking for power rather than the average guy worrying about what does shutdown mean? Does that mean that the government is not going to honor treasury bills?
Yeah.
You know, if that were true, the markets would be going nuts right now.
Yeah. The deal. You can put up that first clip because this is the article from Politico. House GOP in open warfare over doom spending plan. And here's the tale of the tape, Dr. Paul. There's about 12 days left until shutdown, the end of the fiscal year in September 30th. There are 15 Republicans apparently in hard opposition to a continuing resolution plan, a kick the can down the road plan. And that's difficult. And it is a real challenge to Speaker McCarthy's speakership because you remember it had to go through 12 rounds of voting. They finally agreed to a few things. And one of them you and I were both pretty optimistic about, which is a separate vote for each of the appropriations bills. Don't spend all your bickering and then put in a huge omnibus with things you couldn't even imagine thrown in there to be funded, and then expect people, oh, we'll vote or we'll shut. And that was the whole deal, and they haven't done it. And now they've got just a couple of days left, and they haven't gone through their basic work over the year. And now they are trying to craft a 30-day continuing resolution. Now, this is a collaboration between the Freedom Caucus, which is supposedly more conservative, and the more moderate or middle of the road caucus to craft this 30-day kick the can down the road plan. But they're selling it as something great, which is that we're going to cut across the board 8% in these 30 days. But there's a catch. Military spending and veteran spending, which is not as big a deal, are exempt from it.
See, there's almost like an obsession on this because it's always closed with, well, we have to do it, we have to do this, and because we can't afford closing down the government.
The thing is, they did this back when Trump was his shutdown. They did these stories every day about the TSA agents and how they can't eat and how they're not going to be able to blah, blah, blah. And then the shutdown happened. Guess what? They all got back pay. They all got back pay and they were all taken care of. So, and also, folks, even if the shutdown does happen, your money's still going to the Ukraine. They're still going to pay the Ukraine everything. The small businesses, the first responders, all that stuff's still getting paid. There it is, as Steve showed. Yep. They're going to keep spending. I think it's 57,000 small first responders and the small businesses will get paid while veterans and others don't get paid. That's how much they do not give a rip about you. And it's absolutely ridiculous in that regard. Your thoughts, John, on a shutdown and the fact that it's not a shutdown. It's just more political theater. It's the exact same thing we watched with the debate. It's just stuff for ratings, stuff for CNN and MSNBC to put a counter in the bottom corner so they can, 2 hours left and all this other kind of nonsense. It's all theatrics.
Well, and Rick, you could speak about this more magisterially than I could, but and probably Steve too. But you guys know the early debates over the different dangers inherent in leaving the Constitution as much as it was, or taking given some things. So basically the Federalist Papers. But I just remember that one of the early things was the worry of having people, well, granted it wasn't Washington then, but hang around, whether it's going to be in Philly or wherever else it's going to be, and I think basically the fear was right, that getting out of touch with just the normal duties of leading a household, man, it gets you out of reality. And so none of these people are living in reality, as Ron Paul does a good job of showing, and okay, we could say for a second that they know that they're lying. But my fear more and more is that people like this, that they have somehow convinced themselves of this fabrication. They are so far from reality that I think, I don't know. Either they're bad liars, or else they what's probably even scarier is that they've convinced themselves of the truth of some of these things they say, and that they think the world works the way in which they say it does, instead of just effectively right now our entire government system being one big Ponzi scheme that's based on printing money that we don't have, and so the economic injustice that comes with that. I mean, it's just while everyone else is I think not facing that same well, I shouldn't say everyone else, but a lot of other folks who are not politicians aren't facing the sad reality. I mean, really, these politicians, they're not involved in the same world we are, and just kind of dealing with the effects of that, kind of the logical consequences of that. I don't know. That's my only thoughts about all that craziness that you hear the Democrats talking. You think, wow, they must really believe it. I guess I don't know.
Well, they're insulated. They're insulated in that Washington bubble. right? I mean, even during downtimes, there's always cranes. I know Mike Church used to call it Crane City because there's always, no matter, everybody else can be kicked out of their homes, interest rates, cranes are still going, buildings are still being built. Just the other day, Joe Biden announced the Office for Gun Violence Prevention, which is pretty much a bone to the Everytown and Wine Mom Demand Action Groups. That's a permanent position in the White House, which I guarantee will be elevated to a cabinet position by the time he's gone. The swamp expands. Doesn't matter how bad everything else gets, Steve. And so, they talk about the shutdown. Nothing's getting shut down, right? Nothing at all. It's just, as I said before, and as John eloquently put, it's just more distraction.
I thought that swamp was drained in 6 years ago. What happened? You telling me it grew and it didn't go anywhere? Yeah, I mean, shut down, slow down. If you go to bed at night going, well, I can't believe the government's going to shut down. That's a problem. I mean, what's going to happen? All right, federal parks might not be allowed. You might not be able to get in there. Should be any federal parks anyways. Where's that in the Constitution in there?
They're going to waste more time to put fences in open air parks so you can't walk in them.
Yeah, the Smithsonian, you might not be able to get in. Okay, again, why? Is your life going to stop? No. You might not be able to call the IRS. Who wants to call the IRS? These guys are still going to get paid. You never hear of these guys going on food stamps or anything like that. They get paid buco's amount of money. It's all, like Dr. Paul said, it's about power and scaring the public into thinking, oh, you need government. You have to have daddy government running or you might die. Terrorists are going to come and get you, or some boogeyman we're going to create is going to come get you. Well, you get up in the day, the sun comes up, and you go through work and you do it. Hopefully you do your prayers, you might go to mass, and you don't think, wow, I'm glad DC was running, because if not, I don't know if I'll be able to cook tonight. Joseph Schumpeter's quote, I always remember on this, is that if no one knows who he was a former resident of a concentration camp back in the day. And he said the line of, people like the word freedom. They like how it sounds. They like the ring to it. But the actual practice of it, they don't really care for. And you think about that. If you really wanted freedom, we say dumb is D-U-M-B, jokingly about it. If you really wanted that, then most of the stuff you deal with can be done on the local level, but you don't want it that way. Nobody wants it that way. Do you want, how many people, again, imagine a debate when someone comes up, even Trump came out the other day and said he was going to end the Department of Education. You got a round of applause. Should have been anyways. Should be done. But imagine he goes up and says, I'm ending Social Security, which is a socialist program that most quote-unquote conservatives live, or Medicare, Medicaid, a socialist healthcare system, which most conservatives, especially older people, live. They would get destroyed. They'd be done. Your political career is done. And like the same people that says, oh, freedom, ring the bell, let freedom ring, but not that kind of freedom. No. We need government to be able to help. But that's the thing with I remember Andrew Wilkow had a great line of the church versus the state. He goes, the same line, will you help these people? The church asks, will you help these people? Question mark. The government says, you will help these people, exclamation point. It's the force of the gun. You will do this. You will pay this. Just like the book system with the pentagram. If you know anything about September 10th, 2001, when Rumsfeld declared war on the pentagram and the trillions of dollars that were missing. If they did what they did in that book, and there's a longer story, and Enron was in Building 7 and all that. If you did what those guys were doing, you'd be in jail for the rest of your life. But the government does it, and they just write it off and make some creative thing on there and write the books and make some kind of number up. And we're supposed to go, oh, yeah, we'll just vote somebody else in 4 years, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Woo-hoo! It's a derangement syndrome on our part because we've been indoctrinated for so long to think we need to go. And not saying we're not going anarchy here, but it's just like the quote-unquote founders had on there. You have a limited thing. There was only 18 enumerated powers up in the government and the federal ones. The state has powers. Each state, you should know your own constitution in your state and figure out what that is. Your county, locals, ordinances. If you don't like it, you can run for something and try to get that fixed. Yes. But someone had a great tweet. It goes, you call us the land of the free. You can't get milk. You can't drink milk from a cow. Some places you can't collect the water from the air. I mean, there's so many laws. I mean, we're breaking one probably now by just talking about it. I mean, the state of Texas had this the other day. Texas law banning some drag shows is unconstitutional. Federal, the F word.
That judge, yep.
Federal judge.
The nation.
Federal
Scourge
judge.
of the union, yep.
So yeah, Texas can't be Texas. Where in the Constitution does it say that the federal government has to allow drag shows? And in the article they said something about the First Amendment. It infringes on the First Amendment and chills free speech. What? How in the flippity-flop does the First Amendment, which says Congress shall not pass, does that mean Texas? But that goes in our incorporation idea, which, oh, by the way, here it is right here. Unconstitutional restriction on the speech. The court concludes that SB 12 violates the First Amendment as incorporated to Texas by the 14th Miracle Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I saw someone had a quote, I hate the 14th Amendment even more as the day goes by. And you should too, because what did Vivek just, Tim Scott talk, was it Tim? Tim brings up the 14th? Who did? Vivek brings up, and that was what we told you. It was about the slaves that were already there. There it says they're not going to be shipped off like Lincoln wanted to ship them all off to the colonies because he didn't want the races to live together. That's an absolute fact. Go look it up. Douglas was not in that room for that one. But how does that context go into, oh, well, yeah, Texas cannot be a state, a free and independent state, and ban drag shows. Tell me, be a conservative and say, oh, yeah, that makes sense that a federal judge just came in and ruled that Texas can't do what Texas wants to do. Again, it goes back to, if you're a 14th Amendment fan, that is not a conservative stance. You should be an incorporation one that goes for the Second Amendment too, where everyone says, oh, that's, that whole thing with news. I know Rick covered that in New Mexico with the lady. She violated the New Mexico state constitution. It's right there. 100%. And that's when media was talking about it, which was hysterical that the local media, even quote unquote national, was talking about the state constitution of New Mexico.
CNN of all people actually had it on the Chiron when they were asking the governor.
It was beautiful.
That was crazy.
It was amazing. No one's ever done that in a sense. It was like, hey, good, thank you for screwing up so you can talk about that. That had zero to do with a federal anything. It had nothing to do with the Second Amendment. But you can't get anything but decals on pro Second Amendment. The NRA, Second Amendment, everything Second Amendment. There's no bumper sticker saying, hey, it's the Sixth Amendment or Session 6 in your state constitution. Nobody has a clue. You have your own state, your free speech laws. You have original religion laws somewhere. There's someone has slave laws. There's some that has this. Look it up. There's all different ones. But we like to be, we're this one country, we're one rule from D.C., and that goes down to everywhere on here. And no matter what someone does, if somebody goes down the street down here and puts a lemonade stand, D.C. has to run the corner of Calhoun and Broad and be able to tell, is that legal? That's such a backwards mindset. I don't know how anybody can just look at that and go, that makes sense. There's no way. How does D.C. run the corner of thy local neighborhood? It doesn't. Okay. And that's the thing. The federal government shutdown. Good. Maybe there'll be peace on earth if the D.C. government goes away. I mean, who does all the wars? I mean, all the bases, all that. Imagine if the base is closed, how much money we'd save. I'm about to go on a 30-minute rant, so I'll go back. I'll cede back to Rick.
Yeah, the whole thing that people want, that they don't want any responsibility. It's been beaten out of us, any type of autonomy. The governor positions are just tryouts for president. Who if they're popular enough, then they can run for president in a couple of years. And the fact of the matter is, it's everybody just passes the can around or passes the hat around, and nothing ever gets done. And it's hysterical to watch, because what you have right now, and we'll just move on to our next part, is you have riots happening in Chicago and in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, the birthplace of freedom, where things are being looted and robbed because of other stuff. And nobody's doing anything because the federal government refuses to do anything. So I guess everybody else can't do anything as well. And, you get stuff like this.
Well, I forgot to play the 60 Minutes clip first.
Play that first.
They're financing more than just weapons. We discovered the U.S. government's buying seeds and fertilizer for Ukrainian farmers. and covering the salaries of Ukraine's first responders.
Why is that important? The U.S. government is actively going after U.S. farmers, trying to shut them down, as John Kerry has talked about numerous times. But hey, we're funding Ukrainian farmers and the first responders who probably might not get paid because of the government shutdown. They're going to get taken care of. So, yeah. Whee!
Yep, you might as well move to Ukraine. I mean, that's the 51st state at this point.
52nd. Israel's 51st. Where's Greta?
No, that's the first. That's the first state. What are you talking about? There is no state above. There can't be 50 other states above Israel, Steve. So
my apologies. I'll go on the reparation thing.
That's right.
Decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's. If somebody decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's or a Nike, because that makes sure that that person eats. That makes sure that that person has clothes. That's reparations. That is reparations.
So the fact is that this is an example of being overeducated and underinformed. This idea that buying or stealing Gucci will make sure you're eating.
Unless they're eating the Gucci.
At this point, I don't know. There's such and this is the issue, is that there's such a social breakdown within cities. Once the bastion, because cities were where immigrants, the Irish, the Italians, the Polish, all these people, as they moved across these United States, one way you can check, if you look at the rail lines, that's where most major cathedrals are. They're pumped up across the rail lines across these United States when they were built, because that's where the Irish were going, and they were building these churches as they were moving through. Now that there's no Catholicism, and yes, I know there are churches in the cities, but those priests, they've checked out. They're too busy doing gun buybacks. They're too busy promoting transgenderism and all this other stuff. Because there is no Catholicism in these cities have absolutely fallen apart. There's nobody to stand in the breach, John, and we're seeing it. It does, and people say, "Oh, but there is Catholicism." These cities, these churches are packed, but these people aren't Catholic. I'm sorry to say that, or they may not be feeling, or they may not be led by bishops that are truly in with the faith, and they're too busy talking about, really what I'm trying to say is they're too busy talking about social issues, John. And we're seeing that play out here, where I could see a priest saying, yes, this woman is right. She needs reparations because of the sin of all of these other things. And it's just such an absolute, it's a sad state.
Well, yeah. And I think you hit it perfectly, right? Like you said, she's, what would you say? Overeducated, but overeducated,
underinformed. Yeah, this girl's probably got 9 masters.
Yeah, you're probably right. So she's probably making more than we are. But yeah, that's
more than me.
She's stealing all the Gucci and selling on eBay. She is.
But I mean, that's effectively it. Is that you drowned in the enormity of the information overload nowadays. If you aren't moored by the knowledge of principles, and so here's the thing. Maybe sometimes we skip over that part a little bit too quickly. So principles, it's knowing the basics of ethics and morality that you could get if you just read a little bit of Aristotle's Ethics or just a little bit of St. Thomas Aquinas's commentary on it. I mean, it doesn't take a ton just to get that. Like, you cannot do evil so that good might result. I mean, that. You should get that in the Bible, first of all, right? That's kind of like Catechism 101. But even someone who doesn't want to have anything to do with our holy faith and the true religion could at least get that from Aristotle, because eventually Aristotle provides the rationale for that it's always going to come back to bite you. If you do injustice because injustice has been done to you, you are just keeping the thing going. And you may not feel the effects of it immediately. And maybe even someone really close to you may not feel it immediately. You may not see it. You may even somehow die before the effects are felt. But that ripple in the pond, there's not going to be any peace in the pond after you've made that, those huge waves like that, those unjust waves, let's say. So, I mean, it's some basic principles that if these people either knew them or agreed to them, then we'd actually be able to talk about things rationally and reasonably. But when you really think, I mean, because effectively what she was saying there is, I can do evil because, some good's going to result from, some temporary benefit for you. But I mean, that is basically morality 101. You can't do that. So Rick, you hit it. I mean, that is the situation we're in. And until we get somebody who's saying that clearly and effectively, so that other people, they're communicating it so that other people can grasp that and assent to it, agree to it, and say, okay, we're on board, let's do it. Then it's kind of ridiculous to go around and talk about any of these things like this, like that lady was trying to give a homily.
Very true. Very true. What's your thoughts, Steve?
Man, I can't make what Jonathan said any better. I'll bring this, and just breaking news is gruesome news. Have just raised the minimum wage of fast food to $20 an hour. It's a big win for these guys, because you won't be able to hire anybody anymore, which goes into the fourth industrial revolution, which goes into universal basic income, which they all want you on, because San Francisco was one of the trial runs for UBIs.
Fort Worth, Texas has that all.
Texas got it.
Yep, that all automatic McDonald's.
Yeah. So you won't have it. My wife went into Walmart the other day, and it was nothing but self-scan, self-checkouts. You couldn't ask for help or anything like that. Yeah, it's because there's no way that it's all going to be machinery or robotics. And when you get the digital IDs, oh yeah, but hear about that? Speaking of this. Not to pat myself on the back, but here I put this on Clown Planet yesterday. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. From the land down under, which has been the experimental stage for a lot of things. Here we go.
Yeah.
Digital ID system could be operating between governments and the private sector as soon as next year. The aim is to reduce the need for us all to share vast amounts of personal data with multiple organisations.
We've all seen what happens when companies that hold our personal information get hacked, and it's not just customers who worry.
Small businesses have a high concern about cyber risks. They don't want to hold more personal information than they need.
So long story short, they're going with the digital ID. They just had a thing that they will be cashless. I think next year, Australia will be. So, hey, it's coming to a local area near you. Kind of like our last story right here I thought about was the California governor signs law requiring gender-neutral bathrooms in schools by 2026. Hey, where's the federal judge on that one? There's no federal judge to talk about that. Rick got kicked off by the Matrix.
I know my camera is freaking out, so I don't want you guys to actually watch me do it. So I'll be right back.
No
As
problem.
you can see, my Zoom is.
So, yeah, where's the federal judge on that one? You're not going to get it because that is an approved idea. We're in a time where you're going to have, like it's with the Australia, the fourth industrial revolution is going to come through. You're going to have Massey.
What purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 86, printed in Part F of House Report number 118-216, offered by Mr. Massey of Kentucky.
Pursuant to House Resolution 723, the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massey, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky.
Of my amendment, which states that none of the funds made available by this act may be used to fund any grant related to any transgenic edible vaccine. Does the term transgenic edible vaccine sound far-fetched? Well, it's not. We're funding it. In fact, scientists from the University of California, Riverside, funded with your taxpayer dollars, have been studying whether they can turn edible plants, such as lettuce and spinach, into mRNA vaccine factories.
We talked about that. I talked about that on Clown Planet last year, I think a year and a half ago, because they have the document talking about making it with the mosquitoes, which is going on down in Florida right now. They're jumping out a ton of mosquitoes. By the way, when you had the New York City right now, New York City, there's video of these vans going down the road spraying aerosol because they're worried about the West Nile virus.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get them. They're trying to kill the mosquitoes there. But what happens is studies have shown that the mosquitoes come back even stronger, but their natural predators are dead. Dragonflies, birds, etc. But the mosquito comes back bigger and badder than ever. So this has all been talked about before, and then Massey has to come out and say they're literally using taxpayer money to put mRNA stuff in your food. I'm trying to use the right words, in our foods, so they can eat it. That's been in the documents. I've had friends of mine that was big into that field saying, "Oh, that could never happen." I go, "Here's from Moderna. Here's from these guys. They're trying to do it." And Massey said, "Our taxpayer money's doing it." It goes back. Somebody in the chat said, grow your own food. You better be growing your own seed. You grow something in the backyard. They're trying to. Well, they'll probably spray stuff here anyways, which will end up getting and contaminate the soil. So we're all screwed anyways. But it goes back to, we better think about Christ the King, Christ the King over there. But if they kill you, who cares? I mean, we're not made for it. Just like the whole thing. If they nuke you, who cares? As long as you're in a state of grace.
Don't be afraid of those who can kill the body. Be afraid of those who can kill the soul.
It's weird out there, dude.
Yeah, that is 100% correct. It is absolutely weird out there. And let's get that last video. Is that one also from Australia, or did you already play that?
All right, that was the Australia video with the digital ID. It's coming down. There'll be cashless next year. The EVs. I mean, I have another one on the 40 cities, which if you're in a big city, you're pretty much in a 15-minute city in the next 3 years.
Yeah, that's not a shock. I mean, that's what we've covered all there. So, and unless you got anything else for us, Steve, I think it's time for the cry room and our saint of the week. Who you got?
I was going to say clown room. Clown room, cry room. I'll go with Travis Kelce, who's
Swifty. Yeah,
he ended up getting on the Swift train, dating Taylor Swift, and also had a commercial sold out to Pfizer because he's out there promoting the jab. The great meme of you see him and Herb together, and he goes, one way or the other, his heart's gonna be broken.
Yep. Yeah, it's the best. That was the best and truest meme I think I've ever seen. In that regard. So, and if Taylor Swift's next CD is not Hail to the Chief, I will be sorely disappointed because that entire album is going to be about him anyway. So she might as well make it. What was the stat? She got, I can't remember. It was like 5 digits. She got like 10,000 people sign up to vote. She put an Instagram post out or something to go out and vote. And the local news talked about it all over the place. She got all kinds of people. And she's on video saying she needs to get Joe Brandon in there in the office again and going, yeah, she has to. She's probably going to get another office for her getting created. Yeah, I absolutely believe that, and of course the office of Taylor Swift because it is Gen Z generations at this point. Do you have a saint of the week?
I was going to go with Joey Votto of the Reds just because we grew up Cincinnati Reds fans, and it was his last game, and he comes out and has this great speech, or the fans wanted to come on. If you know anything about Joey, he's kind of a live spirit. He hit a milestone. Was it a home run, 400th or something, 300? And they gave him the ball back. Like most people, they usually put him in like in a glass jar in your trophy thing. He gave it to his dog. As a dog chew toy. So he's like one of those, he doesn't care. He doesn't get big on the thing, but in his speech, he's talking about, I thought about crying. There's no crying in baseball, league of their own thing. And he's cutting jokes and all that, but he's one of the old school guys that didn't show up players, and he's just a good dude in the sense of playing the game the way he is, and I think he's going to retire. So I'll go with. I know people don't like sports. Get over it. Sports are good. It's just the modern politicalization of it has been screwed up.
Do you watch the NFL?
I tried. Well, I'll turn on a game when Megan's putting the kids down, just for to kind of like bump some time until the comes back down, and I just have it on. And now, if anybody knows me especially me and my brother back in the day, I don't remember missing a play during the Panthers on Sundays. We were at the house, or I was at the place, or at a friend's house. I was there by the time kickoff happened. I didn't leave till after the last bell, the whistle. And years, from 1996, 1995, all the way up. I mean, to 3 years ago. And really, it was when Richardson left. I saw the writing on the wall and the NFL in general, because Jerry was like the moral glue in a sense. It was right when my firstborn was born 5 years ago. We were in Denver, and I saw the thing. SI came out with the Richardson. There's the Me Too movement was going on, and he's groped people. And if you don't know who this guy is, he had like 16 bypass surgeries at once. It wasn't that much, but he'd be in his suite with a blanket over him, kind of like a mummy, but he's watching. And they were saying that he jumped over a chair to grope a lady. The man can't move. He did what? And it seemed like they were trying to get him out because he was one of those guys that they said he'd walk into a room and commanded attention. People would, Jones and all those guys, a lot of them didn't like him because he was so old school in the way he was mentally and things like that. And when they got rid of him is when things really started going down the crapper in a sense. And for me, for the Panthers, that was when the team just got rehauled. It's a new team. It's basically you're rooting for laundry after that. I don't know. You grew up, you knew the guys from years and years. Maybe a couple guys came and gone, but it was the same nucleus. After that year, that was everybody left, retired, gone, whatever. It was a new group. I couldn't get into it. It was right at the time when the NFL gay thing was coming down, and then we got a tranny at the cheerleader. Carolina had Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago. I saw 2 plays. I was curious. I was like, let me see how they are. I saw a couple highlights on Twitter because I'm scrolling through and I still have them on there. I can't watch it.
Yeah,
they're 0-3, so it's even worse. But I have zero interest. And at one point, I'm trying. I'm like, all right, sell me on it. Dude, I'm talking about when we would go to Monday night. My wife was sitting next to me. He goes, Monday night game was going on. Do you care about watching a game? I go, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if you would have told me not go, I'm living in Charlotte, outside Charlotte. I would go, never missed a Monday night game or a playoff game. We were at the stadium, at least tailgate. I go, we'd be tailgating at noon. I go, I have zero interest going down there right now.
I haven't watched the Pats game since 2020. I used to be a diehard Pats fan, and I have Paramount Plus and stuff like that. So it was on Sunday Night Football. Couldn't care less. I'm just watching reruns of seasons right now. I finished Chuck. I'm going through Grimm. Like, I've completely just checked out of all of this. I just honestly, sports are good. I agree with you, Steve. There's a lot of good that comes from him, which is why the left is trying so hard to destroy them, because of all of the good that can come from it. Also, I'll say it again, all you losers who said you're going to boycott Bud Light, y'all lined up the first Sunday and you're drinking Bud Light by 2 cups. You're going up because we all know you're buying 2 cups at the concession stand. So all that good work that the conservatives did went straight down the toilet because y'all couldn't control your impulses.
Well, even college football, you could have said that was the pure thing. And now they got the image likeness stuff and the transfer protocol. These guys can leave anytime they want now, and they're recruiting during the season. And
here's the thing about college. When I was watching just some highlights on the end zone, it says "get vaccinated" at every college, and I'm just like, I can't do it. These things are just as much a propaganda vehicle as anything else. It's not pure or anything like that.
I caught the last play of, was it LSU? Was it, I think week 1, week 2. I can't remember who LSU was playing, and they ended up winning on the last play. Went for it on 4th down and got it. It was a cool play. I was actually, that was exciting. But compare that with what Deion's doing in Colorado. I'm going, Deion's bringing in rap guys. It's Hollywood. It's almost like
Boulder, Colorado has not seen that many black people in one place ever. So
it's really weird, especially how he's doing it. If you weren't being
you and I both watched Whitlock. You know why Deion's going. He went to Boulder because
I get
he didn't want to be at Mississippi State or wherever it was, or so.
And he's got the guys. There was a highlight of one of his sons was the cornerback, and they're talking so much smack before the game. They're writing checks. Their ego they can't cash, and it's like playing back in high school. You had that guy that just talked smack, and you're like in the dugout. You're in the locker room going. I remember one of my coaches in middle school or junior high. He told us whoever's guarding 23 do this to his pants. Peep, when he goes down because he was sagging. He acted like his didn't stink. And we did it, and he got kicked out of the game because he retaliated. But it's one of those, the whole thing with when they knocked out the one dude at Colorado State. I'm going, yeah, I get it. You're going to talk like that? Somebody's going to lay you out.
You're going to get hurt. Yeah. I speaking of which, I caught the last couple plays of the Ohio State Notre Dame game. I want to watch Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I do. And you know what? I can't because when I'm watching this game, I'm thinking in the background, oh, that's right. Notre Dame's having drag shows on campus now. And I'm just like, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's a toss up too, because you got that, but then you got the head coach that converted.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, he converted to Catholicism. He seems to be like a great role model.
Yeah, getting the guys go to mass before the games, all that. Yeah,
it's tough because I want to support that guy because that guy seems awesome. He really does. He seems like a throwback to an old school, gritty, just good moral character type of guy that you want as a guy leading your son. Like you would entrust your kid to, like if Marcus Freeman says, I want your kid to come to campus, I'd be like, I feel good knowing that guy's going to be there if you have a problem or an issue or something like that.
I mean, like Nick Saban, I think gave $1 million to build a Catholic chapel down in Alabama, I think it was. And you got these guys all over the place. You just don't hear about it. I mean, like the Boston Celtics head coach, he's got some great lines at the end of games, and there's some sprinkled around there. You just gotta. We shouldn't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and everything. It's kind of like
I know that. I get it.
But I'm not. It's not saying, hey, watch 3 hours of a game. I mean, if you want, like I remember a friend of mine texted me up, hey, what's that app? What's that thing that you can get to watch a game in 20 minutes? You can watch an NFL game in 20 minutes.
Yep.
You get the app for it.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. There's a YouTube channel called Wheels, and they compress all the games into like 15-minute highlights. And so, there's ways to watch that kind of stuff. So,
and Phoebe, hey, those guys contact me a couple times now that he's going to send me another video. He's asked me to put it on the YouTube channel. So watch it. He'll watch for it in the next week or two. They got a link out. We're in contact with that group, high school team. But they do a great job too. I mean, there's patron saints of sports. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go back, Lou Gehrig was a Catholic, Babe Ruth was Catholic, Stan the Man Musial was a good Catholic. There's all kinds of guys. I mean, Vince Lombardi wanted to be a priest. His name's on the trophy. It's just we were a different time back then, and it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. What are we doing about instead of blaming everyone else? We're not fixed. It's on us that the culture is sucking so bad. And Jonathan brought up the October challenge. Father Mateo came up with that thing that's for the month of October, every day doing an hour adoration at your house every night for the month of October. I did it. I've done it for a few years now. It's hard because you won't want to sit there for an hour. You want your sleep, but it goes back to vigils, night vigils that like Chrysostom talks about how that is like the most efficacious way of prayer is night vigils, because that's when you want to sleep and you're fighting your body to stay awake. And those when the desert fathers stayed up all night, some tied their hair to the back so they didn't fall over. And you can do that because that's something you close the door. It's the whole idea of closing the door, not being on Twitter, tweeting out, "Hey, I'm going to mass. How you going to pray? How do I pray for you today?" And you're not going to pray for all those intentions when you're not this insane question, but.
So just jumping in on that from the little office of the Blessed Virgin Mary, every night the second reading is by meditating on the incarnation, our devotion is kindled, and by remembering the example of God's mother, we are encouraged to lead a life of virtue. Such virtues are best achieved in the evening. We are weary after the day's work and worn out by our distractions. So I mean that's what you're kind of speaking to there, Steve. Is the fact that the evening that, we're all tired. I'm the first to admit, man, I'm more than happy to go to sleep. I love it. It's my hobby. But dying to self and dying to sin and really showing that is really, as you said, it is a huge and a powerful way to devote oneself to and to show devotion. So I might have to do that this October as well.
Well, if you go to the website, I'll show the website on here.
Shameless plug.
Check it out. If you go to the newsletter right here, click on that. I'll put a newsletter together later today. on the October, and where it is right here. See if it pops up. There's the price to pay. Father Mateo's reparation for the challenge of October. I'll link that in there. It has a couple videos I've done on that topic. I've had priests promote it as well. So, but if you sign up on the newsletter, I'll send it to you exactly what it is and some tips to do it. Because again, it's one of those things. It's like when we talk about athletes. If the guy's running stairs at night or in the evening when the gym's off, that coach, he's going to be better for that coach later on. He's not, hey, all look at me, look what I'm doing, bragging about what he's doing. It's literally between you and God.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's fantastic. So definitely check that out, folks. My saint of the week are all Sigma males, if you understand what I'm talking about, because they have single-handedly made Ken from the Barbie movie into an icon. And it's actually the director of the Barbie film actually came out and said she was displeased that Ken is the thing that everybody loves about that film, because I haven't seen it. My wife saw it. She said that was the only thing that she watched and enjoyed. So good job, man. I actually hope, and this is just stuff, my twisted sense of humor, that song "I'm Just Ken" wins an Oscar, and it's the only thing that wins an Oscar for Barbie would be the "I'm Just Ken" song, because that would be the ultimate slap in the face to them, and I would get a chuckle out of that. My cry room, speaking of entertainment, the writers are coming back from being on strike, so nobody cares about that. And Disney just dropped the trailer for their next movie, Wish, which is a complete anti-God, pro-diversity, nonsensical movie where if you are a Catholic or even people who are spiritual, you'll get what Disney is doing right off the bat. Essentially, the king, the white, blue-eyed king of this magical town, has the ability to grant wishes, and he doesn't grant everybody's wish. He selects and picks and chooses which one. And apparently, Miss Diverse Girl, who is apparently, because black people existed in medieval times in these places, thinks that's bad because everybody's wishes should be granted. So she apparently usurps the king's authority and grants everybody's wish, kind of like the lady who said, steal the Gucci because that gives you insurance and that's okay. So big L. Oh, also there's transgenderism and LGBT nonsense in this film as well. I think it's the Chinese girl, might be a lesbian. So yeah, those are all the wishes. And she's mad because the king doesn't grant everybody's wish. And of course, as an allegory for Catholics or Christians, or the idea of a leader, it's very much a Gen Z versus establishment ideology of, hey, we can't grant everybody's wish, and Gen Zers and millennials being like, I want all the things now. And so big L to Disney, right? Thank you, Lou. Big shocker, Disney. It is low hanging fruit. I get it. But sometimes yes, they are absolutely of course, these are the people from Frozen. So it doesn't shock anybody that this.
Let it go.
So that's my cry room for that, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on the news from the Pew. Please like, subscribe, and share the news from the Pew. I want to thank y'all for hanging out with us. Thank you to the amazing panel, as always, for hanging out. God bless, and Viva Cristo Rey.
The cold never bothered me anyway.